Hello, and welcome to our 15-minute extended disc webinar. Today's topic is extended disc and the healthcare sector. My name is Christina Bowser, and I'm the training director here at Extended Disc. And joining me is my colleague, Amy Lipinski.
Hello, everybody.
She's a senior trainer here. We are already recording it, and as usual, we welcome your questions. However, because of the time limitations, we encourage you to put your questions in the question section, and we will follow up with them after the webinar is over. So, talking about healthcare sector, what is it about extended disc that can help us as healthcare professionals, Amy?
So I think one of the most important things with extended disc, when we think about it, like in a healthcare sector situation, you're interacting with not only patients, but a lot of other people on your team. And so having knowledge about extended disc gives us just a common language. And what's nice about it, it's not judgmental. There's no right or wrong. There's no judgment in the language. And it's really providing a roadmap. It's letting us understand how we prefer to do things, kind of where we are on the map and what comes naturally to us. It doesn't take a lot of energy. And then on the flip side, too, it helps us raise our awareness around what are the behaviors that do take us more energy. And it's going to help us understand how people are similar and different so that we can identify what their disc style might be. So when we think about it as that roadmap, it's indicating to us where we are on the map, where those other people are on the map, and then it's going to give us tips and ideas on how to adjust, how we can help meet them where they are so that our communication is more effective, our relationships are better, our interactions are more succinct. And so it gives us that common language to help us to get there.
Exactly. So I just want to read this quote really quick. It's someone I worked with, and she's actually one of our clients, and I love her. She says, I love the quote, great leaders make their thinking visible. With extended disc, you have the ability to make your thinking visible, and you can have people understand every intersection where you can make meaningful connections by meeting people where they are. And that's exactly what Amy was talking about.
Exactly.
So today we're kind of looking at a two-step approach. The first approach as a healthcare provider is how we communicate with our patients. So as Amy kind of gave the introduction and overview, we want to oftentimes think about, treating patients the way they prefer to be treated, meaning that we all have our own preferred style of how we communicate. But if we are also able to identify the differences in terms of how our patients may prefer to communicate, then it can improve the interaction. Communication is key. It's in healthcare, in anything, but it's critical in healthcare because it's important for the patient to buy in. It's important for the patient to understand the diagnoses or the visit, and also to understand what to do after the visit because they are part of the healthcare.
Right. And when we think about our patients too, depending on the situation, it can be stressful as that patient. And we want to make sure that they are feeling comfortable and they're able to embrace and understand our message. And we do that by treating them the way they prefer to be treated. It's going to make them feel more comfortable and be more receptive to the communications we need to share with them.
Exactly. And, a lot of times we think as we do disc workshops, we might not say it out loud, but sitting in the audience, we might think, gosh, that's going to take a lot of work. I'm going to have to think about it. But oftentimes, remember, these types of adjustments that we are asking ourselves to make are temporary. They're only for that interaction. And they are oftentimes very brief. It might be as simple as saying, hey, I have a D-style patient here. This patient is more likely to want me to kind of get to the facts quickly, not to overwhelm them with too much detail, not spend too much time on chit chat. D styles are more comfortable when they feel in charge. So maybe, give them some part of the process where they feel like they can have a choice in their outcomes. but it's not the energy you put into making all these kind of adjustments. It's just the fact you just adjusted by saying, hey, this patient is most likely a D style.
Right. It's not changing who you are. It's a brief temporary adjustment to have a positive impact on that interaction. And with our I style patients, they are ones who are comfortable with chit chat and almost want and need that chit chat. So giving them opportunities to talk,
Hmm.
making sure you build a personal connection with them in some way, because that's really going to be important to them.
And where I styles aren't oftentimes as interested in the details, your S style patients maybe, they're ones that often want to understand and want you to justify why you are making these types of decisions. And they are a people oriented style like the I style. So they really want to build a connection with you. They want you to help build that rapport with them. But they're going to want you to slow down. They're going to want you to explain things so that they have time to process it. They're typically not styles that want to be pressured into making quick decisions.
And on those lines, our C styles are also reserved. And so they're going to be similar to our S's, and that they do want you to slow it down with them as well. They don't want to feel pressure to make an immediate decision on something. And they, unlike our D styles who just want kind of that high level overview, our C styles want all the nitty gritty details. So if you have a patient who you identify, they're going to want everything. I mean, the more you can provide them, even in writing, so that they can read it on their own time and peruse it and come to, have questions when you come back to visit them, because they will have questions that are follow up questions. And they also like to know that things are proven solutions. So anytime that we have that knowledge that, what, this has worked in the past, and this maybe case study or this scenario or this other patient that I worked with, that's going to go a long ways with that C style patient.
Now, Amy and I were laughing earlier because we were like, wouldn't it be great if you could just stamp the style on a person's head? But, just a couple, cautionary tips. Number one, most of us are a combination of styles. So we never want to kind of lock people into a style. And what's great about DISC is it's very easy. There's a simple 3-step approach that we can provide to you on how to identify DISC styles of others. Like, for instance, if someone's walking in and maybe they're not making eye contact, or, they seem a little bit more hesitant and reserved, probably an S style or C style. But if someone comes in, she says, hey, doc, just tell me what I need to know, probably a D style, task
Hmm.
focus. So these types of things we practice can help us more easily recognize D styles of our patients. But we do want to be careful not to jump to conclusions too quickly, never to lock anybody in, because that in itself can get us into a lot of trouble.
Yes. So when we look at DISC, like Christina had said, one of the aspects is how we can interact better with our patients, having positive outcomes. But in the healthcare sector, we don't always work in a vacuum either.
I don't think we ever work in a vacuum.
No. And so it makes me think of the old game we played as children with telephone, right? And how funny it could be, that end message and what it came up with. And when you think about the healthcare, it's really about teamwork. It could be the x ray tech to the receptionist, to the doctor, to the nurses. And it also spans over potentially several different shifts, where you may have that one patient who's there 24/7, but you have different shifts of people coming in to care for that same patient. And so having that clear, concise communication is critical to their care and the positive outcome that we're looking for.
Yeah, in fact, I think there was some studies that have done, and I don't have the exact percentages, but um, where there was mistakes or misdiagnoses, often were the result of miscommunication.
Miscommunication, I think, is one of oftentimes in any relationship,
True, true.
is that, right? So applying the extended disc allows us to predict how we're going to tend to do things, right? How we tend to show up and work under pressure, how we tend to maybe make decisions, and how we prefer to communicate. And it also will give us that awareness around our strengths. And work is hard enough. So we want you to use your strengths, right? Understand what are your strengths that you bring. But just as important is having that awareness around the impact that our strengths are having. And so being aware of potentially overusing our strengths to the point that they're not working for us anymore. And so just being aware of the behavioral, your behaviors and how they're impacting others.
Yeah, and imagine if you're, a leader, like a nurse manager, if you understood your natural preferences of your direct reports, you could perhaps, think about roles that you can put them in where they're more comfortable. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't excel in all roles. This does not predict our success. We can excel doing anything. It's just understanding that there are certain behaviors for us that take more energy and certain behaviors that tend to give us energy.
Hmm.
Um, so we just wanted to show you um, just a couple tools that we have available. And for those of you out there, you're probably very familiar with most of these, I would say. So the individual assessment, that is our standard go-to assessment. It will cover everything that you need, in terms of communicating, decision-making, how you show up under pressure. We also have a work pair assessment that targets two individuals and how their natural styles tend to show similarities as well as differences. We have our team assessment, which is very valuable for the healthcare team. And I wanted to just today spotlight the healthcare professional assessment. So again, just to make your lives easier, that's one of our goals here at Extended Disc. It is essentially the individual assessment built up with additional information focusing in on the healthcare professional.
So we're going to take a look at just one of the pages. And like Christina said, if you're familiar with the individual assessment or any of our assessments, you'll be able to read the healthcare professional one. And these are some of my favorite pages when we look at specific behavioral competences. And so the important thing here is these behavioral competences really highlight those behaviors that are specific to the healthcare sector. And when we read these pages, we want to just have that awareness that anything to the right, those numbers like a 4 and 5, those are things that are natural to our style. The farther to the right, they're more natural they are. So if we look at that first one there, brief goal oriented patient contacts, right? That person scores a 5 on it. That means they just probably do that. It comes so naturally to them. They don't think about it. It's just what they do. And then the next one is building, maintaining patient files. They scored a -3 on that. It doesn't mean they can't do that well or that they're not able to be successful at it. It just means that we need to have some awareness around that. That might take more energy for us. So having a development plan in place. It's not about our ability, these pages or any of the pages with the extended disc assessments. It's all about our energy. And so it's all about raising our awareness. If we score a 4 or 5 on one item, continue to use it, but be aware of, are we overusing it? Do we see impacts where it's not working for us because we overuse it? Items that we might score lower on, -4, -5. What can you do to develop that? How are you practicing it? Do you have a plan in place? Are you aware that that takes you energy?
uh, um, you know, and as Amy said, these scores are not about ability; they're simply about energy. And
Hmm.
what I always reiterate is DISC itself does not measure all of who you are. So it doesn't measure your attitude or your skills or your experience or your intelligence. It focuses in on behaviors because that is an aspect of who we are that we can make these types of adjustments to.
Yes.
So the last thing I wanted to share with you all is that we have case studies and where we have interviewed some of our clients and asked them about, what were some of the challenges they had before using extended disc and what are some successes and would they be able to share that? And not only do we have just case studies, but we have ones that are specific to healthcare. And you can see at the bottom this link here. If you just go to our public page, extendeddisc.org, and just look up case studies, you'll be able to find them all there.
So next week, we are going to be looking at how we can use extended disc to land your first job or any job in that fact. So join us. It will be Tuesday,
Yes,
November 12th.
that's right. I did that correctly.
Okay, from 3 to 3:15. It just threw me off, right? So it'll be on Tuesday next week, November 12th, 3 to 3:15. We hope you can join us then.
All right. Take care, everyone.